Hey everybody, Steve here, and today in this video we're going to look at a problem in leveling the Saturn III Ultra, and I just ran into this and I thought this might help people if they have leveling problems. Here's what we're looking at. Okay, so we have our Saturn III Ultra, and like I said in a previous video, but basically what I ended up doing is printing out some items on the full build plate, and the items that were on this side didn't print out. The supports were barely hanging on, and then as you got to the second row and everything pretty much here was good, and then we had some ones that had some weak supports on this side of the build plate. So yeah, nothing, cleaned it, IPA, the whole 9 yards. So during the leveling process, you undo these screws. So this is supposed to, kind of sit in here and kind of go freely up and down, so that way you can put pressure on your build plate, and then you secure the screws into this, with a piece of paper, one or two pieces of paper, and you're good to go. So when I was trying to level, I saw that there was some binding going on with this build plate, and so I was kind of like, well, wait a second, maybe there's resin that had got into the female end here of where these screws go, and I figured, what I'll end up doing is I'll clean these with IPA and get them real nice and squared away. Yeah, there was still some problems, so let's see if I can kind of put this in a position to where I can show you. So, like I said, this block fits in here, and it goes up and down, so that's obviously not a problem because we've got enough play in between where this goes down. But what I found out is the screws. Yeah, notice how this is an oblong shape. So in other words, you should be able to set the screw in there, but actually it doesn't. And I think that's part of the reason why this side was hard to push down, because it was catching where it was binding right in these slots. Now, if we go to the other side, let me take a look. We kind of get the same thing. Yeah, so it's not even freely going in. There's enough where you have to screw this in. Once it gets in, then it'll go up and down, but there's still some binding on here. Yeah, the interesting things that you find out when you get into printing and resin and whatever else, all these little details that come into play. And it got to the place where I was putting force on the build plate, which is pressing up against the screen, and I was always having problems on this right side. Well, now I know why. It wasn't allowing enough free play, and that elongated slot was catching on the threads and wasn't allowing it to freely move up and down. So when I was pressing down, I was actually pressing against and didn't have free play, so there wasn't making enough contact down to where I was getting resistance on the paper as I was doing the manual leveling. So,
a few moments later.
Okay, a little update on our build plate here for the Saturn III Ultra. And so I took a little Dremel-like thing, and now we have totally free play. So something we didn't have before. I mean, it would stick and stick. It should work out well. So yeah, that's what we got. Good stuff. Okay, we completed our adjustment and smoothing out of the build plate. So in other words, got rid of the sticking points there, and what we're going to end up doing is doing a test print. So now that I think I've got everything leveled, set to 0, and we've got that free play, we'll find out in about an hour and 30 minutes or so, but we'll come back and we'll see how the prints did. Alrighty, so let's sit back, and through the magic of video editing, let's go to the end. Okay, we finished up our print for our test to see if the build plate is leveled a little bit better since we made the modifications to the slots. we can end up saying, yep, we have some prints. Oh, but this side is still being squirrely. Interesting how it's like barely hanging on. So, look at that one there. That is just barely hanging on. Like maybe one support. Now this one, it's got more on this side than it does connected on this side. So that is kind of interesting. So again, how there's a number more on that. And what about this one here? That's better. Oh yeah, that was a lot better. And then this middle one here, that was perfect. That one there. Oh yeah, that is 100% good. That is 100% good. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Oh yeah, that's perfect. That's a lot better. That one's good. And this one, some of those aren't connected. So for some reason, on the corner, which is odd, see, that just fell off. So why would we have fall off here and here? I don't know, maybe I need to adjust it again and see what we can come up with. Now, if you could do me a favor, I would really appreciate that. Take a few seconds to hit that like button, subscribe, all bell, the whole 9 yards, and I would really appreciate that as I fumble and trip my way through this resin 3D printing hobby project stuff that I'm doing. So with that being said, back to the program. I think that's what we'll do. Okay, so let's clean this plate up, and we will put another piece of paper, take the bat off, put another piece of paper. We'll go down 0.1 millimeters and see how the resistance is, and reset to 0, and we'll run this same print again. So now that we got the ultrasonic dude fixed up there, we'll drop these in. And then we'll turn this on for 5 minutes. Alrighty, we got all those guys in there. Our super duper mirrored curing station. Set it for a minute 30, and we're off to the races. Alrighty. Boom, we are done. There is our water cured prints. So I'll take those out and let them dry, and we'll do a final inspection of all 3 tests. Okay, we're going to give you the little condensed version, because if I just do the video and keep showing everything that I did, it's going to be really long, and you're not going to like it, I'm not going to like it. So let's take a closer look and show you what I'm talking about with these 3 test prints. So here are the test prints, and what we end up seeing is out of a total of 10, we had 2 that just didn't make it. And what you can end up seeing is that, yeah, it was a little bit deformed, on that side there. And again, it's all on that right side. I don't know what the deal is. And this one was a little bit better. We still got the leg is kind of missing there, so it's a little deformed as compared to, one of the ones that actually prints out correctly. So that's what happened with the original leveling, and we had some decent resistance on all four corners with the paper and the protector that was on there. So we moved to the next stage, which was re-level it again and dropping the build plate so that there was even more resistance. And what we ended up getting is basically the same thing, almost the same as what we saw with the other one. So yeah, very, very, very problematic. And you can see that there. I mean, and compare these two to the ones from the previous, and it almost looks like it was the exact same thing. So except this one is a tiny bit better, but not by much. So then we did the third test, and the adjustments we made on this was increasing the exposure from 2.5 to 2.6. And when we ran our test, we got 9 good ones, and we got this one partial, which is still kind of the same thing. So I'm at a loss as to what's going on with this thing, and it always seems to be that right side. But again, like I say, if this paper was the build plate, we're talking about putting this thing in the corner right down there. So am I actually going to use that? The majority of the time, no. But so yeah, if anybody has any suggestions or tips on what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong and how I can fix this I would really appreciate that if you could put that into the comment section down below so I could get smarter on all this 3D resin printing stuff. Alrighty, there you have it. I'm kind of at a loss for words. All I wanted to do was print out some bottle tops for my army painter, and ended up with this leveling problem, which once we dug into it, we found, like we see here, the oblong holes that the screws go in weren't perfectly round-ish. So in other words, it was causing binding with the screws going in there, so it wasn't allowing for the screws to, get your mind out of the gutter. So we weren't getting that free play with the block. In other words, when you set that build plate down and you're putting that pressure, there was binding because of that, and that was affecting some of the leveling. So once I dremelled all that out, we got free play off of that build plate, which is good to go. So if you have any ideas as to why this is happening, fill me in, give me a clue. I would really appreciate that. Oh yeah, I forgot. This was about bottle tops. Here are the bottle tops being painted with my airbrush, and then we continued on. It was a white primer. And then the next step, what we ended up doing is gluing these tops onto our Army Painter paint bottles, as you can see here. And then was the arduous task, as we see, of taking the contents of each bottle and painting the top, so we could get a good representation of what it looks like on a white primered surface. This took quite a while, but it was kind of neat to see how each paint interacted with a white primer, and I did notice that the purples needed to be mixed up a hell of a lot more than the other colors, so that kind of keeps that in mind. As we can see here, we're finishing up on the last bottle. Ta-da! Alrighty, and there it is. Finally done. Alrighty, on to a closer finished look of our bottle tops. There we've got our washes, our metallics, and all the other colors. I think it turned out really well. I like the fact that we get to see how each color interacts with a white primer, and these will be easy to identify. And of course, these are going to go in the rack, and they do fit, and there's the reference chart. But again, I think we turned out really good, so I will definitely give this a thumbs up. I enjoyed the project and something that you might want to take into consideration. So that's it. That's what we got going on. Leave your comments in the comment section down below. I would really appreciate that, and we will see you on the next video. Peace. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to stay up to date with what's going on with us. The Varied Life, as we're retired in Korea. We'll see you on the next video. Peace.